Good morning. I was waiting for the bells to ring, but I didn't hear them. So, sorry for the delay in getting started. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Palo Alto, where we come to transform ourselves, each other, and the world. Folks who are here online, you're welcome to keep your video on throughout the service. We'll mostly keep our audio off, but you'll want to know where that unmute button is for the end of the service, when we all join together in saying the benediction. And now, let us begin our service.
Good morning, church. Nice. I'll say that again, though. Good morning, church.
Good morning.
All right, we're awake. Hopefully had an extra hour of sleep. So, good morning, justice seekers. Good morning to all of our siblings who are not with us here today in this room. I invite you to join us on this land that was created by divine light. Welcome from anywhere you are on Turtle Island. Welcome to this holy land. Welcome to our spiritual home to be celebrated, loved, and cherished. I, as the infinite generations before me have done, I welcome you to this space of beauty and peace. I invite you this morning into this sacred space and to join us on a journey on this beautiful Sunday morning. I invite you this morning, you who come to be inspired by this community, come into this house where we celebrate our time together. You who come to be strengthened by sharing together your story, come into this house to share your story. You who come to be challenged, come into this house and hear and see and feel not the obvious, but the subtle, not the heard, not the seen, but the felt. As we light this chalice, come into this house to be received and to receive. May we hold this light in our hearts and seek out a conversation about justice ministry, not only as an act of people, but a spiritual practice that centers on community connections and relationship building. Justice ministry is a ministry of accompaniment where we accompany each other in our work as well as those we serve in their struggle to be liberated from the sins of the oppressors. I hope this time together will be challenging and enlightening. Welcome to our sacred space where we confront pain and compassion, injustice with justice, and individual passion with community strength. Join us this morning and welcome a celebration of life, relationship, and connection.
Please join in singing hymn number 1018 in our teal hymnal, Come and Go With Me. We now turn our thoughts Is this on? Yeah. We now turn our thoughts to the important events of our lives, which we wish this community to share. If you have a joy or sorrow you would like to speak, please write it on a card if you have not already. Let us take a few moments of silent prayer or meditation to hold all that we have heard and all that we haven't heard with compassion and care. Blessed be. Okay, please join in singing. What? Oh, we already did it? Oh, we did it out of order. Okay, I think it was out of order on this script. Okay, so it's now time for the story for all ages, and AJ will tell it to us.
I'm going to come down front, if that's okay. Mike, go down front? Okay. I probably shouldn't be down front because I forgot a belt when I packed, so we'll see how this goes. So, good morning. I want to share with you a Native American creation story that I heard through a family member years ago. So it's a little adapted, and I think that it'll hopefully work for us this morning. So this was a creation story. When Mother Nature was creating the world, she opened her hands, and beautiful things came forward. She opened her hands, and a butterfly flew out. Next, she opened her hands, went down to the floor, and a rabbit hopped out. Then she opened her hands, and a tiny little ant popped out. Because the ant was so small and needed to walk to leave her hands, she moved her hands to the side and set the little ant down on the floor in the field. Little ant started to walk away. Ant was a happy ant, and she walked away and she said hi to everyone. She said, "Hi, Ladybug." And then she said, "Hi, Mr. Roach." And then she was startled by a giant daddy long-legged spider. But she said hi anyway. She went along her way being happy and cheerful. A couple of days later, Mother Nature opened her hands again, and a snake crawled out. Now, this snake didn't look like any snake that we're used to seeing. This snake had a beautiful plume of feathers and 6 legs. As Mother Nature put him down, he scurried away, and after about an hour of walking, he noticed the tiny little ant. When he saw an ant, he laughed and said, "Oh, tiny little ant, you are so funny looking, so small and insignificant." Ant looked up at Snake and asked, "Why are you saying those things to me?" The snake just responded, "Because it's true. Mother Nature wasted her time when she created you. Little ant was heartbroken. She heard all these terrible things that the snake had told her, but she wasn't going to let Snake see her cry. So she said to Snake, "Stop calling me names." She heard all these terrible things, and she looked at Snake and said, "I'm just as important as you are." Snake responded to Ant by saying, "No, you're not. Look, I'm strong and you're not. I could just blow and you would float away." Ant said, "I'm just as strong as you and I'll prove it to you." Snake said, "Oh, sure, Ant. How could you do that?" Ant really didn't know what she was going to prove or how she was going to do any of this, but she said, "Be here tomorrow morning and I'll prove it to you." Snake agreed. The next morning, Ant and Snake arrived. Snake said to Ant, "Okay, prove it. How are you stronger than I am?" Ant still had no idea what she was going to do in this challenge when all of a sudden she saw a stack of rocks about 10 feet away. And Ant said, "I'll race you to the other side of the prairie over to those rocks, through those rocks." Snake then said, "That doesn't prove you're strong, and besides, I'm faster than you, so I'll beat you there." Then Ant said, "Okay, let's do it." Ant didn't really think she was going to win, but she was going to try, so they were off. They ran, and as Snake approached the rocks, he pulled his plume of feathers in and dove between the rocks. And oh no, he couldn't fit. He got stuck. Ant then ran, and she slid through the rocks underneath his tummy and made it through. Once on the other side, Ant realized that Snake was stuck. Snake was really upset, and as he looked at Ant, he looked back at each other, he saw that Snake was in pain and hurting. So he told Snake, "Don't worry, Snake, I'll help you." Snake just hissed back, "You can't help me." Ant just said, "Trust me, Snake." Ant then leaned on the first rock and began to push and push, but she couldn't move it. She thought to herself, "Oh no, what can I do?" Pushed again. Then she remembered all the other animals in the field that she had met a couple of days before. Roach and spider and ladybug. So she told Snake, "Don't worry, Snake, I'll be back with some help." Ant then ran away and called her friends for help. They all came back right away. They could see that Snake was really scared, and he was so they began to push and push the rock together. The rock still didn't budge. But as they were pushing, other friends came, and they began to help. And finally they pushed the rock, and the rock moved away, and Snake slipped out from underneath the rocks. But guess what? Snake was a little different. Snake had lost his plume of feathers and his legs, but he didn't care. He looked at Ant and said, "Thank you, Ant. You really are strong. You have much more strength than I do because you have built friendships with others who are willing to help those in need." Ant just smiled and said, "Thanks, Snake." And then she crawled up on Snake's head, and they left. They went across the field together, making friends with each other, with all the creatures they met.
Please, am I on yet? Okay. Please join in saying our affirmation, "Love is the doctrine of this church," number 471 in the gray hymnal. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve human need, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus we covenant with each other and with God. And now, please rise as you are willing and able to sing We'll Build a Land, number 121 in the gray hymnal. Apologize for not telling you the alternative words that we've inserted for all of our brothers and sisters. It should have been all of our kindred. So, sorry I didn't remind you. And now it's time for AJ to lead us in a reflection.
So today, I'll lead you in a little bit of a reflection, but know there will be an interactive piece at the end. So I'll ask you to think of someone who you are holding in your hearts during this hour, and I'm going to ask you to voice that if you are so willing and able. I invite you to settle in as we enter this time of prayer and reflection. I invite you to face a source of inspiration. It doesn't have to be me. Or to close your eyes and to be able to rest your hands on your chest or outstretched in an open position. Make yourself comfortable. As we settle in, open up our chest and roll your shoulders back. Release the tension in your body. Maybe lean your neck to the left or the right. And we'll take in a deep breath. We'll breathe in and out. In and out. One more in and out. Today we focus on what it means to have a justice ministry in 2022 and looking forward. During these next few minutes of prayer and meditation and reflection, let's center ourselves on what it means to liberate ourselves and others by creating relationships and creating justice in our communities. Justice comes from the heart of the community that suffers injustice. It does not come from the outside, nor does it come from the powerful, the oppressor, or the silent. Justice is something that is rooted in the life, struggle, story, and passion of the marginalized, with the assistance of those who have influence, power, and privilege. Justice comes through the development of relationships between the oppressor and the oppressed as we move together to create liberation. As we enter a time of lamentation and petition, I invite us as justice-seeking people of faith to reflect on the pain in the world. We ask each other, the universe, and the divine for care of those who are suffering. Spirit of liberation, Bodhisattva Kuan Yin, Hestia, goddess of hearth, home, and hospitality, God of Abraham, Jesus, and Muhammad, today I pray for those members of our global community who are denied freedom and liberation. I pray for our planet that is abused and treated with disrespect. As I pray for these, I ask you in this community to hold them in your heart, to hold those who are traveling from their homes to faraway lands, not by choice, but out of necessity. Those who have been abused throughout the ages for being their authentic selves when it comes to their identity, sexuality, or who they love. Especially those who have been abused by the church, their family, and community. Those who are having their right to control their bodies denied as they attempt to make health decisions that support the needs of their own personhood and families. Those who have darker skin, be it black or brown, and suffer far too much at the hands of our legal systems, without justice. And finally, I ask you to hold our planet in your heart as she becomes more and more weathered by our neglect and abuse. Spirits, gods and goddesses, siblings in faith, we ask you to bring these people to our communities to be welcomed with open arms of mercy and compassion, not questioning requests to be taught or viewed with pity. We ask you to grant us the blessing of your compassion and mercy as we do the work of opening our hearts, homes, and so that we may build strong relationships and liberating communities. We ask that liberation flow down like the waters upon us, to quench our thirst, and replenish us and refresh us. In many cultures, including my own, we believe that speaking out the name of a loved one with intention gives that intention power. Beloved members of our community gathered, I invite you now to speak peace and love into the world by speaking of those who you know are suffering and injustice, be it an individual or a collective. May we hold these people that we now speak of in your heart as we send positive energy out into the world together in this community. I now bind all that has been named with that has been unnamed, but held in the heart of this community as we go forward through this hour. Good morning again. And I want to begin my message by thanking Reverend Amy and Karen and Veronica and all of the AV team and everybody that's been helping to bring this worship service together. I'll just let you know that I already got in trouble this morning for going over way too long. So bear with me. I'm going to try to step it up, but Karen will be kicking me in the shin in the back in just a minute or two. So I want to start this conversation. I'm going to put my teaching hat on, start you off with a pop quiz. So it's pretty easy. How many of you know there's an election going on in 2 days? All right, we're good. How many of you feel like you're informed about the issues? Informed about the issues? Propositions, candidates. How many of you have voted? All right. How many of you plan on voting? All right. I'm hoping that I'm not offending anyone because I know there are people who may not be able to vote. So I hope that you are engaged, and maybe you are not able to vote, but you are still engaged in knowing the issues and can help us in our justice ministry. How many of you have heard of UU Justice Ministry of California? All right. You guys are doing much better than the first service, but don't tell them. How many of you have heard of UU Legislative Ministry? All right, that was our former rendition, right? That was what we originally were founded as 20 years ago. Have you ever worked with UULM or UU Justice Ministry? Have any of you ever done any? Karen has. Karen's one of our leaders. All right, a couple of you, good. Well, I'm here to rope you in today. That's the goal, right? Two of the biggest campaigns that we had over the last 20 years were the marriage equality campaign. It's kind of where things started. In 2000, after Prop 22 went through, then some UU leaders across the state kind of came together and said, what should we do and how should we do this? And then in December of 2002, right, we're 2002, December, so a month from now, a group of those leaders met at Neighborhood Church down in Pasadena and decided they were actually going to form a board, form an organization, and that organization became UU Legislative Ministry of California. And then went through the marriage equality campaign, went through the water rights campaign, had a bunch of other things, but those were the two big things. After marriage equality decided to change their name, we're really looking for legislation, but more about justice ministry. What does justice ministry look like? So that's kind of our story. We've been around through the pandemic. Things kind of slowed down, but we do a lot of educational work. We do regional trainings. We do some, just a lot of things. I'm the executive director, and I'm here to reintroduce you to UU Justice Ministry of California as we go into as of December, we couldn't find the actual date. UUs, for as meticulous as we are about making sure that we know every word of everything, I couldn't find the actual date, but it's December. So as of next month, we'll be 20 years old. So that's where I want to start. Just want to give you some framing. The next piece is I want to tell you a little bit about myself, and I won't go too long into this, even though I'm just, a wonderful person, and I think you should know all about me. But I want to tell you a little bit about myself and also just kind of give you a little bit of a feel of where I'm coming from and where we're going in the future. So I was born and raised in Southern California, in Orange County. I was raised Roman Catholic. In my two ministries early on, I was raised going through private Catholic school. And our two early ministries that I went through were youth ministry and getting our kids involved. And then after I got married and divorced and had my own two kids and came out as queer, Then I worked with several congregations and whatnot to develop queer ministries, accepting and affirming queer ministries, yes, in the Roman Catholic Church, in conservative, in, as you know, those of you who know Clive Jones know, in conservative, blankety blank, Orange County in the 1990s. So that's what we did. We spent 10 years in that time. I had served on the Bishop's Council as a high schooler. I'd been up here quite a bit to working with different organizations, Catholic organizations and whatnot. I was very, very well known. And I'm not trying to toot my own horn, I just want to give you kind of some context. Okay? I knew Auxiliary Bishop then, Jaime Soto, who's now the Bishop of Sacramento, who, as I said earlier, I'm kind of really disappointed in how things have progressed because he was very helpful in forming queer ministries down in Orange County. And he was actually, in the 80s, he was actually a really, he was the only priest in New York that would service AIDS patients through hospice. So I was really impressed with this person. So I want to let you just know, we built strong relationships. So that's where we went. We built these relationships, and I had a challenge in the Catholic Church of people who knew me as this young leader in the church who is now queer with 2 kids and divorced and had a partner. How are they going to get to trust me? How are they going to learn who I was in this new context? So that was the late 90s, early 2000s. At the end of the day, in 10 years, we transformed all of the money from reparative therapy, thank God, to open and affirming congregations in conservative Orange County. So we did that work, many of us. Then I want to bring you up to speed with my work with the Marriage Equality Campaign. So as we all know, 2008 comes along. We have Prop 8 on the ballot. We have Obama being elected. Things look really good midday on election day. Prop 8 is going to fail. We're going to be good. We're going to have marriage equality in the state. Then it starts getting announced that Obama is going to win, and Prop 8 numbers just tank. Liberals in California stopped voting about 6 o'clock. So that's where we are. But before that, we had to look at what was going on. I was now in the different role. With the Catholic Church, I was a person of faith who was trying to bring in the queer community. Now I'm a queer person trying to bring in people of faith, right? So we have a bunch of queer people who are now in this space of like, I am not going to trust you, right? You. I'm not going to trust you because you are church folk. And you may say you're good, but you know what? I know what you are. So I had to do this work. And this work was the reverse. I had to be able to be in a space where we could now look and say, who are we going to trust? And so, we started to talk to people. We were hosting campaign sites. We were the campaign headquarters in our churches. We were doing things, but it didn't work. There was still no trust. Then we decided we're going to hold phone banks, and we're going to get people together. We're going to do this outreach, right? We're going to do this, and it still doesn't work. We're looking at this group and of queer people. They're like, no. And then we have a phone bank at my home church. At one point, we have 200 people in the sanctuary. They're making about 4,000 phone calls, to support marriage equality. And then I walk out, I'm the good seminarian, and I walk out to the parking lot, and I get blasted. How dare you make us come into a church, said some of my queer friends. This is the place that's hurting us. This is the symbolic temple of what is all about what's wrong with the world, and you're making us come here. So the phone banking and the campaigning and all that, it kind of worked. It started to open some doors. The Saturday after the election, we met in the upper room of the dance studio, which we thought was poetic. Us church folk thought was poetic. We were meeting in the upper room after the death of Prop 8, which the upper room is symbolic for after the death of Jesus is where the apostles met, but we met there. And we started to figure out what were we going to do to formulate this group. And so we met with these people and we started to form, this coalition. We called that coalition Orange County Equality Coalition. And then we decided, by no choice of our own, but we would form a Progressive Interfaith Alliance because, people didn't want us church folk in their queer group. So we were struggling. Everything was just so fragile. So my mentor minister, Karen Stoyanov, who is at my home church, and I and a few others, we decided we were going to change the narrative. We were going to change this whole thing. So what were we going to do? We were going to go out to the gay bars and have brunch and have lunch and go to happy hour, and we were going to show who we were. We were going to celebrate anniversaries and birthdays and do all the things. We held a funeral in a local gay bar. We brought the community in. We held a UU funeral in the bar. We thought, okay, we're going to have 10, 15 people show up. Nope. The bar was jam-packed because we didn't ask them to come to the church. We went to them in the community. And all the neighbors just had to do was just show up. So we built these relationships, and that's what worked. We built these relationships, and that's what worked. So back to my days in the Catholic Church, it wasn't about us doing the work. It was about us building relationships. It wasn't about us doing the work in 2008, and 2010, 2015. It wasn't about us doing the work. It was about us building the relationships. That coalition that we built ended up being a coalition of queer people, labor leaders, teachers' unions, a whole bunch of groups. I know I'm way off script because I just needed to get through this real quick. But a whole bunch of groups, Christians, Jews, Muslims, atheists, Americans United for the Separation of Church and State, members of Americans United for the Separation of Church and State were on our Progressive Interfaith Alliance board. We were working together. In 2017, this group that started with marriage equality in a very small component came together around Planned Parenthood in November of 2016 and planned the Women's March in Orange County, which drew 10,000 people. And it became the joke in the area of how do you get all these groups, teachers' unions and Muslim groups, and labor, and all, how do you get them to a gay bar? You call AJ. Because we're going to have some fun. And we blessed the doors of that bar as the sanctuary home of that community. We read the first reading, instead of singing it because I can't sing, we read the first reading out of our hymnal. We blessed that space. But we built that community around relationships. And that's what I'm here to you about today, because I'm way over time again, but better. I think we're better. But that's what we're doing at UUJMCA. We're not looking at how we can partner and work around justice. We're looking at how we can create justice ministry around relationship. And that's what I'm coming here to you today for. I'm here to reintroduce you to UUJMCA. I'm here to ask you for your support. You've got some forms that we left in the seats. We'll get those forms to you online. We'll get those through the church. They're outdated, so look at the campaigns that we're going to be doing, and they're not going to match. I'm not going to waste the paper. Sorry, I'm cheap. But and I'm not going to ask you necessarily for donations. We appreciate that, but I'm asking you for is feedback. What are you interested in? We need to know what you're interested in, what's going on in your community. So if you can take a minute after service to fill that out and get it back to me, that would be great. Because we're really trying to figure out how we can get back into this community and support you. That's part of it. The second part of it is, I want to let you know the first thing that we're going to be doing that's going to be statewide. The first thing that we're going to be doing statewide is, and some of you may have done this, is we offer UU border trips where we go down, we send groups down to the border to learn about what's going on in immigration and at the border, and then hopefully to bring that information back up to the churches and to disseminate that information. That's been our plan. That's been what we've done. What we're going to be doing this time around is we're going to be going down in April to build a house in the middle of April, the weekend of April 15th. We're going to need support. We're going to need people to go. We're thinking between 25 and 30 people. We're going to be looking at financial support. We're going to need other support. Again, we need your support, number one, to tell us what's going on in your community. Number two, to support our larger initiatives that help to build this coalition, so that way if you go from your congregation, you get to know people in other congregations, we get to build these relationships, we get to get this space built together in building this justice ministry, right? It's not one-offs. We had a lot of people asking us about the Dobbs decision and one-offs. We're not doing one-offs, right? That's too small. We're trying to build a beloved community that's going to be larger. So on December 3rd, and again, we'll get this to your through the congregation to you, on December 3rd at 10 a.m., we're going to have a Zoom call which will explain this border trip. Karen will be also your next have the most information on this in this congregation. She is on the immigrant justice team. So I want to invite you. I want to invite you to be in relationship with us. I want to invite you to share with us, to give us your feedback, to tell us what's going on in your congregation, in your local community. Some of the things that are happening in this community are happening in the Central Valley, are happening in Imperial Valley, in San Diego area. They're happening around. We're trying to build spaces to where we can share resources. I know resources are very limited right now. And we're trying to build spaces where, again, we can support you here. So please give us a chance and give us your time and energy around letting us know what we can do for you. As well as this pilgrimage, I think it'll be a great opportunity for some of you to get to know others across the state and doing this good work that we're doing. We're going to be helping one family in a developing community in Tijuana. So together, may we work together to create justice and build relationships. Thank you. Thank you for cutting me off.
We create this space together, not out of wood and glass, nor even out of electricity, but out of our presence. Wherever we are today, we have chosen to be together, hoping that together we can do so much more to make our lives into all that we dream of and make our world into the one we hope to see. If we are moved by gratitude to each other, we may choose to support with whatever financial resources we can this community that we are creating, and that is creating us. The offering will now be given and received. The order of service gives a QR code and link, and also information on using text to give via Give Lively. We're way over time, so unfortunately we'll have to cut the last song and go directly to the sung benediction by the choir. Before we say the benediction, I want to invite you all to stay afterwards for our conversation time. Those online will be invited to small group conversations in our breakout rooms. Or you can, well, actually, we don't have a room here to discuss the service, but please feel free to discuss the service if you're here in person. And AJ will be hanging around to talk with you if you are interested in learning more. Now, if you are online, please unmute yourself, turn on your video, and touch hands virtually, like that. And while we say our benediction together. And if you're in the main hall or on the patio, reach out to hold hands if you and the person next to you are comfortable with that, or to show that you are connected in spirit, cross your hands over your heart. Go out into the world
in peace. Be of good courage. Hold fast to what is good. Return no one evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted.
support the weak,
help the
suffering,
rejoice
in beauty,
speak
love
with
with word and deed,
honor
honor all beings.
So it is.